Way back in the 70s, Atari was gaming. More recently, however, the focus has been a lot more on the business, and not in a good way. But this year, the legendary gaming brand has been rescued by a man from Sony and a man from EA. And right now, they want to tell us why Atari has a major part to play in the future of gaming. And it's all going to be happening over there, in Britain's stupidest building.
Atari is the brand that defined video gaming, first in arcades with Pong, then in tastefully decorated living rooms with the 2600. Further success came in home computers with the Atari ST, which, thanks to its MIDI features, remained a cherished device for electro-pop knob twiddlers long after its commercial demise. But Atari's hardware dominance was smashed by the rise of the Far Eastern giants Nintendo, Sega, and later Sony, and closer to home by Windows PCs, culminating in the twin failures of the Lynx and the Jaguar. That's what you get for naming your consoles after types of cat. If you're interested, and why wouldn't you be, you can read an in-depth account of the dramatic history of Atari by clicking the red button. However, suffice it to say, more recently Atari was making the headlines for all the wrong reasons. However, all that changed early this year. First with former EA Big Cheese David Garner taking over as CEO, then the arrival of Big Phil Harrison, well known to gamers as former Sony Studios boss and PlayStation frontman. So, 9 months later, here we are at Atari Live for the Phil and Dave Show, the grand unveiling of their vision for the future of Atari, which at long last is once again all about the games. In a show of strength, Phil and Dave were joined on stage by their new developer Best Buddies, shipped in from all over the place, including star attraction for the hardcore gaming rock star Tetsuya Mizuguchi, creator of such super cool gems as Space Channel 5 and Rez. As well as a bundle of his best recent efforts, he's also working on a brand new top secret title for Wii called QJ. Meanwhile, Big Phil promised we'd be seeing more from this lot at some point. But for the real future of Atari, you'd do well to keep a close eye on the internal team Harrison is quietly assembling behind the scenes, spearheaded by ex-SingStar lead Paulina Bozek, whom Phil audaciously snatched from his former employer. So what's she up to?
Well, I am working on a lot of new and exciting things. I cannot announce them today. Very excited to be part of this team and working on kind of new, something brand new, and still very much in a kind of social mass market space. I think that's the area that I'm very, very much interested in. And now cross-platform, or potentially on any platform.
So after the stage show, it was time to sit down with the man with the plan.
It's been an education, I mean, if nothing else, learning about the Nintendo DS or the Wii or Xbox Live. You know, each of the platforms do have their strengths and weaknesses, and it's always intellectually and technically interesting to explore them and to find out about them. But yeah, I'm still learning.
Although it turns out, shock horror, he started the learning process early.
I made a Wii Me a long time ago at an event when I was still at Sony.
One format that was conspicuous by its absence during the Onstage Games Fest was PSP.
There is no doubt that PSP is a very vibrant platform from a hardware perspective, and I think Sony has recently made some very good moves into opening up online distribution for software on PSP, so I'm looking to explore that. We have published on PSP, and I'm sure we will continue to publish on PSP. We didn't have any announcements to make today.
How much product we'll see coming to PSP remains to be seen.
So the former PlayStation man might be hedging his bets on PSP, but the news for Apple whores is a little bit better.
That is just a phenomenon that I think is going to change the way that certain kinds of devices consume content forever. It's a game changer. We've got 2 games out, we've got more to come, but we'll stand by for some more announcements.
So that's the Atari gospel according to Phil Harrison. Now to look at the games. And let's get stuck straight in with one we're stupidly excited about. Chronicles of Riddick: Assault on Dark Athena. The follow-up to one of the finest action games of the last generation.
We'd finished Escape from Butcher Bay, and a lot of us that were involved in that whole production wanted to move rather immediately into something else. another Riddick game, and unfortunately the movie didn't do great at the box office.
Mercifully, you just can't keep a great game down.
We've got a ground-up remake of the original that's pretty extensive, a new game that's as big as the original, and then multiplayer. So it's just this huge amorphous thing that's changed over time to kind of become what it is.
And the new game, which we have to say is looking spectacular, has been a long time coming for those of us who've been waiting 4 long years for a follow-up.
We've taken what we really consider to be the sort of 4 pillars of that experience. So the first-person fighting, the adventure and exploration, the stealth, and then the shooting, and have taken all the systems and built them out for what we're doing with Assault on Dark Athena. We see very much as an episodic expansion of Escape from Butcher Bay. We're not calling it a sequel. We've got a sequel in mind that's a couple years out. If you guys want it, and you like this, and you tell us you want more. But that is ambitious, and that is definitely going to follow the precedent that we set with the first. But for now, we've got a new story that we want to tell, and a little bit of a single-player expansion on that original game.
Next up, it's the video game incarnation of Afro Samurai, the highly regarded manga series starring Samuel L. Jackson and soundtrack by RZA of Wu-Tang Clan fame.
It's this beautiful, elegantly told story of just a vengeance, and it's pure violence in there, but it's done beautifully, and we try to portray what is shown in the manga, what is shown in the anime series, and we try to portray that into our game. We really try to make something that was, for the masses. We got hardcore gamer elements in there, so there's difficult moves to pull off, and there's timing things which a lot of hardcore gamers will love.
Afro Samurai will be hip-hop fighting its way onto PS3 and 360 next year. We went to Iceland once. No, not the one this embarrassing trollop poses for.
Outer space is cold and dark and harsh, and that's a little bit like Iceland. But on the inside, it's warm and bright, and the people are nice. So there's a lot of sort of creativity and artistry in the country. Of course, all the way back to when Icelanders were writing the sagas. We have a Nobel Prize winner in literature. This, in my opinion, is what comes naturally to us. We obviously didn't succeed at the banking thing.
Yeah, best not mention the banks, eh?
I think most people enter EVE Online thinking that it is a space fighting trading game, but once they have played it for a while, they realize it's really an emergent society. Like everything that happens in EVE has this sense of realism to it. It somehow matters more than what you maybe see in games that don't have as much persistence to them. Because everything in EVE is really built by the players or the corporations, all the outposts, all the equipment on the market. It's really this sort of living, breathing, vibrant world, which is exciting to be a part of.
The big news for those of you unfamiliar with the EVE Online universe is that the currently download-only title will be docking in high street stores from March 2009. Oh, Dreamcast, how we miss you. Even though you promised us the world and broke our heart into 1,000 tiny pieces, we still love you. And we still remember that first tender embrace on European launch day when, already semi-tumescent, we desperately slotted this beefy beauty into your inviting mouth. You may be long gone, but thanks to Atari, your fighting spirit lives on.
This is a Dreamcast favorite. This is, fanboys have been calling for it since the PlayStation 2 iteration, of course, and Midway has been mired in their own deals, so as soon as we could get this into our house and get it ready, we've been preparing it for about a year now. Started out with Tentacle Studios, and we had fantastic art coming their way, from their way, and at a certain point we basically were just waiting to get the fighting down correctly, and it wasn't until we found a partnership with Aki that we just nailed it. Fans returning to the series will be happy to know that it's a competent and legible fighter. It's a real fighting game, it's not a waggle fest, it's really going to be quite fun. We keep the controls simple and legible, and then we just make it as deep as we can in terms of the counter and parry system, and the Q system, of course, of attacks. So before your animation plays out, you can be kind of queuing up your next set of attacks, and it'll play out as you do.
Exclusive to Wii initially, if it fights the good fight, other formats could follow. PC Racing Geek should be familiar with Swedish developer Simbin, creator of the impressive and ultra-realistic GTR racing series. Now the studio is having a crack at console car capers in Race Pro, coming exclusively to 360.
The interesting thing with our new engine is that it's going to be adaptable for several platforms, and not only Xbox, of course. We will in the future also continue to do PC games based on our new engine. It has everything from Mini Cooper Challenge up to F3000 and GT cars, VTCC Extreme, for example. It's loaded with the right stuff.
When it comes to authenticity, Henrik lives the dream. In this car he's driven all the way from Sweden. Sure beats cattle class. Race Pro parks itself on Xbox 360 early next year. Okay, who wants a fight? Veteran Tekken producer Katsuhiro Harada, that's who. We have a sneaking suspicion there's a few sobbing Sony fanboys who might want to take a swing at him, with the news that Tekken 6 is also heading to Xbox for the first time ever.
Of course, myself and the team have been on this project for over 10 years, and we've been working very closely with Sony in the past. We haven't quite started on the console version yet, but it's going to be quite a challenge to port the game to the 360, but it's something we're looking forward to.
But with Virtua Fighter, Soul Calibur and Dead or Alive, why should we still be excited by another Tekken?
There are quite a few major titles in this genre. However, Tekken is the one important feature is just the amount of characters, and not just the sheer amount, but the variety and the uniqueness of each character really stands out, I believe. And another is just the gameplay itself. It's very powerful and very thrilling gameplay. It makes it stand out, I think.
Elsewhere, RPG fans can look forward to a console-exclusive version of popular PC romp The Witcher. Strategy heroes have gas-powered games' tasty-looking Demigod. And romantic DS owners have the surreal prospect of The Chase, Felix Meets Felicity, a love-em-up due on Valentine's Day, which is at the very least cheaper and less annoying than having a real girlfriend.
Okay, so we've seen Tekken, we've seen Riddick, we've seen Afro Samurai, we've seen Ready to Rumble. Can't think of anything else we've missed, can you? Nope. Let's go then.
Ah yes, how could we forget? After all, we went all the way to San Diego to meet Dan Aykroyd, only for him to pull out at the last minute, as Activision and Vivendi merged and the Ghostbusters were left in gaming limbo, until Atari swept to the rescue.
The game was, for all intents and purposes, finished, ready to ship, but this extension really gives us a chance to go back and tweak the quality levels, improve some of the experiential aspects of the game, polish up add some animations, and just make the game a little bit more fun to go through and more welcoming to play.
The big draw of the game all along is much more than just being based on the beloved movie series. It's that this is an official sequel, scripted and performed by the original talent. And thanks to the reception it's already received, a third movie is also on the way.
From what we understand, they're in the process of writing a script right now. And we'll see where it goes from there. But we're really excited about that too, as we have sort of been told that our game was at least somewhat a part of sort of reactivating interest in the film itself.
The game is now due on PS3, 360 and Wii next June, and we're crossing everything except the streams that it can live up to its potential. So that's where we are with Atari for the year ahead. And the one thing Phil and Dave can always rely on is that the brand will always be in fashion.
The other thing about Atari, of course, is it's pretty much the only gaming brand that you can wear on clothing and always look cool.
Atari is almost synonymous with computer games. It's so blended into culture. It's hard to, it's just almost like an umbrella brand over everything which stands for computer games.
I would always remember it when I'm from New York originally, when I'd head out to Jersey to see my older cousins, and it was before I even owned a console, so this was like a magical experience. This was something that was beyond, it was the television came to life and you're controlling it.
Oh yeah, you know, listening to the stories of Pong and everything. I still remember the 2600 commercial. In America, it's like a 2600 for $49.99, and I remember singing the song to my mom. You know, come on, you know, hook me up and let me buy it.
My friend Charles at school had an Atari 2600 VCS, and I remember going round to his house and just thinking it was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen. And he also had a 14-inch colour Sony Trinitron TV, which I was also really impressed with as well. So funny how those two things ended up becoming quite important parts of my life.
I don't know. I don't think I played a lot of Atari games in the early days, to be quite honest. Maybe you can cut that out.
Overall, there's nothing here that's going to change the world, but there's no doubt that under the stewardship of Gardner and Harrison, there's already been an important step taken in the right direction. Whether the all-new Atari can really make its mark as a distinctive creative force in the industry will depend a great deal on what emerges from secret experiments going on behind the scenes between Harrison and Bozek. But with the curtain coming down on Atari Live, it was time to relax. And what better way to unwind than in a club where the DJ is that bloke what made Rez? Can't wait for his game, eh?
Everyone should be extremely excited about QJ. It's certainly the most exciting project I've ever worked on, and I've worked on some very exciting projects. Working with Mizuguchi-san is an honor and a privilege, and he's a creative dude. He's a very down-to-earth creative dude. Not to build him up too much, he's brilliant at what he does, and I think what we're going to bring to the Wii is going to be quite exciting.
And relax.